Welcome, guys, to the first session of One Desire Bible Study. And today we're going to be looking at 1 Corinthians chapter 13. The reason we're looking at this is because of our vision, which is to build a nation of true worshippers united in love. And recently I've just been thinking about this word love, and it's been really embedded in my spirit. I don't know what God is doing within me, but this word called love, there's something unique that God has for us with regards to this. United in love. The theme teaches us one thing, that we can be united, but not in love. If it is possible to be united in love, then it is possible to be united outside of love. So, what is God really trying to teach us about our unity, where our unity stems from? And this is the premise through which we're going to begin studying 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And there are so many other scriptures that we're going to be reading so that we may understand this very thing called love. Verse 1. If I can speak in the tongues of men and even of angels, but have not love. And what is this love? It is defined in the Amplified Classic as the reasoning, intentional, spiritual devotion. It is reasoning, which is intentional, spiritual devotion, such as is inspired by God's love for us and in us. So this love is reasonable, this love is intentional, the things that you will notice about these two things is they are not exclusive of the mind, which means this love stems from the heart and the mind, because we can see reason in it and we can see intention in it. But more so, it is spiritual devotion. And devotion demands the heart. So when we're looking at this thing that is inspired by God's love in us and for us, God's love inspires love in us. If I do not have it, I am only a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. I am just a noisemaker. Verse 2. And if I have prophetic powers, the gift of interpreting the divine will and purpose, and understand all the secret truths and mysteries, and possess all knowledge, and if I have sufficient faith so that I can remove mountains, but have not love, God's love in me, I am nothing, a useless nobody. So let's just look at verse 2 again. You have the gift of prophetic powers, the gift of interpreting the divine will and purpose. So it is possible to have the tools of spiritual maturity. Because when you look at this, you have prophetic power. Prophetic powers, which is the gift of interpreting the divine will and purpose of God, do not come easy. There is a price that an individual must make. And this price are the breeding ground for the tools of maturity. If you look at even and understand this, now the second part, and understand all the secret truths and mysteries and possess all knowledge, and if I have sufficient faith so that I can remove mountains, sufficient, not too much, just sufficient faith, enough faith, but I do not have love. So how is it possible for you to be, so what this verse is teaching us, that it is possible to be mature outside of love. It is possible to have maturity without love. This first, verse 1, what was verse 1 teaching us? Verse 1 was teaching us that you can speak divine language. Without love. And finally, verse 3. Even if I dole out all that I have to the poor in providing food, this speaks of generosity. In some cases, it would be called charity or love. But is this divine love? It is possible to have generosity, charity, which in some cases is called love, yet that love is not divine. That is not God's love in me. It is selfish. It is self-seeking. It is a type of love, as C.S. Lewis has rightly described the 4 loves, but it is not agape. And if I surrender my body, when I read this, I was surely, Lord, if I surrender my body to be burned in order that I may glory, in order that I may be martyred, I've surrendered, I've given up my body. This speaks of sacrifice, suffering, dying. All the tools that show us what love could be. Yet, these two is not love. So let's just recap. Verse 1, we've seen that we can speak in amazing ways. In Proverbs, it says that it speaks of a person who flatters another is wicked. Our tongues may make us seem like we are divine, may make us seem that we have something special, may make us feel like we are walking right with God, may make us feel like we are walking right with our brethren. But divine language, churchianity, whatever you may want to call it, it's not love. Number 2, verse 2. All the tools of maturity in the spirit, it's not love. Number 3, generosity, charity. Charity or sacrifice and suffering. Still is not love. So this is the first session of this Bible study. We will go into what actually is love in the next session. Already we've seen that divine language is, or churchianity, or speaking flattering words, is not love. Maturity, or seeming like spiritual maturity. Actually, spiritual maturity is not love. Spiritual maturity gives you access to a place where you can access God's divine love for you and in you. But it doesn't mean that you have received it or you are giving it. And generosity and charity, sacrifice and suffering. This in itself is not love, because what we notice in these 3 aspects is motive. Motive in all this is not present. You can speak in tongues, you can have prophetic powers, you can give to the poor, and you can surrender your body even unto death. But all these things have not told us what your motive is. Thank you for joining. Please look out for the next session as we delve deeper into what love really is.